we were having this conversation earlier today.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Okay. So Rob Williams, okay?
Just explain yourself. Just let Jimmy explain himself because I don't get it.
So here it is. Okay.
No,
don't rehash everything you guys went through. Don't rehash everything.
Not all of it, but Rob Williams, who many of us who had a phenomenal game last game, okay? But he only played 16 minutes in regulation, okay? Plays all 5 in overtime. He was an absolute force, okay? Questions about why he's not playing as much, and Brad Stevens says, well, we're managing him. We think we're going to ramp him up as the season goes along, okay? And Jimmy and I call bullshit on this because never at any point in the season, though we know Rob has a hip injury, never at any point in the season was it mentioned that Rob's minutes are being managed. And I feel that this is a bit of revisionist history where Brad is like, oh, yeah, I probably should have played him more. But we can say here that it's the hip and we're managing him and we'll ramp him up. And I'm not buying it, okay? I think both things can be true. They're managing his hip, but even 20 to 22 or 24 minutes a game would also be low enough minutes where you wouldn't be overworking him to a point that it would be an issue. He's averaging 15 minutes a game. And then coming off of a clearly impactful game where, again, he shows he's making splash plays left and right, and he's your most impactful big. He plays 14 friggin' minutes again tonight, okay? And again, I'm not going to say he's the reason they lost or not lost. I just don't understand what's going on with Rob Williams here. I don't understand it.
And I don't either, because when you're managing minutes, first of all, usually there's a plan. You know, it's not been no secret that they've been managing Kemba Walker's minutes. They'll explain the build-up, the game's off, and where he's at. Never once was it mentioned by Rob. And when you look at the game log, it's not like the minutes have been steadily trickling up, to a point where, okay, he's, the hip is at a point now where he's more comfortable. We've never heard anything about it. The minutes are just low all around. And if this is a guy who can only give you 12 minutes a game for the rest of his career, then what are we even doing here? I find it hard to believe that that's the case. I think what John said, it's easy to say, look back now and say, well, the way this guy's been playing, we probably should have been playing him a lot more than we have been. So, well, at the same time, I guess, his hip might not be exactly where we wanted it to be. So, yeah, we're taking it a little bit easy on him a little bit, but let me ask you guys a question. Have you seen once a point in the game where Rob looks like he's laboring or favoring a hip or in any sort of pain? I mean, when he's skying up for dunks and blocks like he did tonight,
that's not what it's about. If that was the case, they'd be screwed.
I certainly don't seem to think that he's, really like troubled out there. I think he could handle more minutes than what he's been getting.
Right. That's what I'm saying is even if he were on a minutes restriction, we've never heard about. We know he has a hip issue, but even if he were on a minutes restriction, which we've never heard specifically that that's the case.
He's a role player. He's not Kemba. The minutes restriction took care of itself.
That's MH, Bobby. What you got?
Insanely low. He could be on a minutes restriction with 20.
This is the craziest theory I've ever heard.
It's not a theory. 14 minutes is insanely low. If you could be on a minutes restriction and play 20 to 22 minutes a game, that would be low. That's not a lot. 14 minutes a game? What are we talking about here?
And
so
again,
I'm not
going
to
go. Like it's ticking up. It's just been consistent. It's like 8, 10, 12.
He went
8,
23
10.
on Sunday. He played the whole overtime.
21, and it was 16 in regulation.
Yeah, and then he got the whole overtime. He made you guys happy, and he was still freaking out.
So why are they not managing the minutes once overtime comes? Now they don't have to manage the minutes anymore because it's important overtime minutes?
No, because they were already limited to that point. That's what I'm talking about. There's not this revisionist history where there wasn't a minutes restriction before. The minutes restriction took care of itself because he's a backup center. He's not Kemba Walker where there needs to be a plan and a funnel throughout the game. Tonight there was a little bit more of
he shouldn't be a backup center. And now we're using this excuse for why he hasn't played more. We're actually saying he should start and play 25 to 30 minutes a game.
No, they've
reached backup center because
he's way too good to be playing 14 minutes a game.
Well, also, Bobby, the last few months he's had a handful of opportunities, or more than that, to address this. When the way he's been questioned, the two bigs starting, whether it was just the bigs in general, he's had so many opportunities to point this out. It would have clarified a lot of these questionings in the last couple of months from these reporters. And yeah, I think that it was a little bit of both, honestly. You know, I think he's in that role to come off the bench. Obviously, someone like that is not going to average over 20 minutes. But to Brad conveniently just use this right when, you know, he's at the peak of, or at least he's starting to
take off.
Yeah. So it's like, well, wait a minute. I don't want to ramp up his minutes, or at least I don't want to announce it. I'm just going to throw this in. Yeah. It's a little.
It was dubious. It was very questionable timing to be like, oh, yeah.
I mean, very questionable. Yeah.
Didn't I tell you guys? Oh, yeah, totally. Minutes restriction. He's been on this all it's 30 games into the year. I must have said it at some point. No, never.
It's both. Listen, this guy has never played more than 24 minutes in his career.
That's what we're talking about. He should be.
So it never had to be addressed.
You realize at some point a player does play more minutes than what he's averaged over his career, right? That has to happen in order for that number to tick up.
Yes, but the hip thing's always been there. The day he got drafted, we found out he had a lower body blood flow condition, which is a big reason that he fell back in the draft. Like this, we've known that Rob's an injured wreck. That's why he fell to 27th, and they have to manage that. And you don't get there by waiting until...
Then it was a bad pick then.
No, the pick was what it was. You got a top 10 talent at 27. So there's going to be issues there. Whether it's
8 minutes a game. So what's the point of having him?
Well, you're pretty much getting what you're getting at this point. This notion, I don't know where you guys are getting. He missed 2 games at the beginning of the month with hip pain. And so management isn't about.
With knee pain, and he played 36 minutes his next game back.
Yeah.
We're not saying that there might not be an issue or an existing injury or some level of.
There is one. He missed 34 games with it last
year. He can play more than 14 minutes a game and still be managed.
So tonight, let me kick it to tonight because I don't want to rehash all of this. What they did tonight is they held him to 7 through the first 3 quarters to get him the whole entire fourth quarter. Now they get to that fourth quarter. He makes a few bad plays. He makes a few good plays early, rather. Does the foul. I don't know why they got away from him in the fourth quarter, but it looked like they had a plan set up to extend him deep into the fourth quarter, and he wasn't able to do it for some reason or another. Now, I didn't like turning to Thompson in that spot because it didn't go well for Thompson either, but this is what I'm talking about.
Notice I haven't even said his name, by the way. I made my points without trashing Thompson. I want credit for that.
This is what I'm talking about here. The reason there's no management plan to be heard of is because they have a center rotation and it just takes care of itself. Like, I just don't know where that comes from. My point is, we've known about the hip thing for a year now, so it's evidently real, and it's been it's been on their radar for a long time.
No, that's again the point we're trying to make is. I don't believe minutes are the reason Rob isn't playing. I believe that Brad still has
it's a mix of both.
A confidence issue where for some reason he's not seeing that the good far outweighs the bad, and he falls into comfortable patterns by putting these clunky big men, like putting Thompson in there because it fits more of what he understands for what a player should be doing, and he's just not seeing that Rob is making plays left and right, both ends of the floor, nonstop, and should be in there more minutes. It's a strange security blanket he has, relying on these old reliables that are not making you better. That's what it comes down to. Is Tristan Thompson does not make you better. He's serviceable. But Rob, you have a team right now struggling to be better than average, and Rob does things that makes you measurably better all the time. So you run with him, you roll with him, and you live with it. Okay? That's why he's not playing, because Brad is comfortable with the other guys, not because of the minutes restrictions.
It's both. I mean, the hip thing exists. I don't know how you.
I know it does, but not to the point. You could play 20 minutes and still be fine.
He could get up to 20 to 23, but I don't think he had the sizable impact on this game that he did on Sunday.
I'm not even this game specifically, but he's still even.
But that's my point. It changes every single game because they have so many options inside. There's so many different kind of matchups. They're not a team that's going to run a guy 35 minutes. You know, Theis is that good certain nights, but Rob's never that good,
He's never
It's
allowed
both.
to be. 20 to 23 minutes is like a 30% increase in his minutes. That would be great. I don't think any one of us would be complaining if he was averaging 20 to 23 minutes. He's averaging 14 or whatever it is, and he's still putting up per 36 numbers that are right near the top of the league. I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's like, okay, how...
It's so little. These are Grant Williams minutes for arguably
Right.
like your third most impactful player at this point in time. It is so low. It is such a little amount of time to make an impact.
So I'm going to leave it like this. Tonight, there's nights where you're right. There's nights where you're not right about this, and it changes on a constant basis. And Stevens pretty much just runs it off feel. And I trust that because I just haven't seen Rob. And you're right. He hasn't gotten the opportunity either. But again, tonight was a night where they set him up for those fourth quarter minutes, and it didn't go the way they thought it was going to. They lost ground there, and they got behind by more, and Thompson was playing okay. Theis ultimately closed this game pretty well. So my point is, you guys make it seem like Rob is miles and miles ahead of Theis and Thompson, where in fact he's probably just a little bit ahead of Thompson and a little bit behind Theis, and that's the situation they're in.
Disagree.
And he barely plays. And for the people saying Rob isn't the answer, we're not saying that's the answer, but it might be part of the answer. It might be part of the solution. Don't forget, your team is one game below 500 right now. For everybody in the comment section, it might be time to switch things up a little bit. Maybe start Rob, or maybe play him a little bit more. Maybe play Pritchard. Maybe start Pritchard tomorrow.
Yeah, let's keep doing this. This is going great.
Yeah, like
the centers aren't the reason.
They're part of it. It's 1/5 of the freaking lineup out there at any given
Play
moment.
the good players. Play the good players. Try that.
I mean,
Play the good players.
We can have. I mean, there's one big man that's clearly outshined, or at least adds another dimension and makes this team look different, right? You know, I just think he gives them an edge when he's out there, and it's just trying to turn those stretches of good Robert Williams minutes into the norm. I think is what
yes, exactly. I want that all the time. I want the difference makers all the time.
In order to get there, they want to see 20 minutes a night.
Minutes.
That's fair. I think it's fair.
Right. That's the thing.
I get it.
He wasn't the reason tonight because he played 14 minutes. If he played 26 minutes, who knows how the game could have changed? We don't know. You punted on that opportunity, which makes no sense to me.
It's similar to the conversation we have with Pritchard. We know he's making a substantial impact and does things that they need, but they need it in rotation, and they have accommodated him to some degree. I mean, he never has to play double big. They've done that with Thompson and Theis to get him solo bench minutes, rotation bench minutes with Tatum. They've done a lot to get Rob going. Like, it's setting him up with 30, 35 minutes the some way some people want to isn't the answer that you think it is. Like, and I love him. I hate to make the argument against him because I do think you need to see what he has. They're about to make an extension with him there. There's a way to do this, but I don't know. Like, how do you guys want to see this happen? I know you want to take away all those Thompson minutes and just throw them in the trash. In
a very simple way, the easiest way possible, I would directly flip the Thompson and Rob minutes. No question about it. I would have Rob at the 22, 23-minute mark and Tristan at the 14, 15-minute mark. Without question. Without question. I'm stunned we're even having a debate whether that's the right move. If you want to still say Theis is the most complete and reliable, fine. He's still not the best playmaker, and there are days where Rob is miles ahead of him, but Theis is more consistent. You want to make him your number one because you know what you're going to get more nights than not. Fine, I'll concede that, even though I'm not all the way on board. I actually would like to see an experiment for 10 games, having Rob start and play 25, 28 minutes a game as the number one big and see if that makes a difference. But there's no question I would flip the Rob and Tristan minutes 100%.
So you guys have a good point. I'm not going to completely deny it, but I do wonder tonight specifically why they got away from those fourth quarter minutes, because I saw the plan coming in the picture there. When he only had 7 going to the fourth and he came in to start the fourth, I said, all right, he's going to play the whole fourth. But he didn't. And Joe Sway, why did they switch to Thompson at that point? I know he had that foul on Cauley Stein that wasn't great, but he had a few good plays there early too. That moment kind of confused me.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to add. I think Brad wanted more.
Welcome. We're all wondering that.
I mean,
been
that's the
wondering
only thing I can think of though. Is like he just wanted more muscle because he does give you that down low. That that what was it? Scal kept mentioning it. Bully ball, bully balling down low, and he was doing that, and I think it was helping to a certain extent. But I just thought in that moment, in that fourth quarter, where it seemed like they were minutes away from seeing the game completely unfold, I didn't think that was the right time to turn to him. But yeah, it's one of those things where you're looking at the fourth quarter and it's like you're not sure who's going to show up. But I think if you put this team in the best position to string together stops, then it puts you in a position to grab a lead or at least tie things up. And I think Rob is your best shot in those instances. I'm not saying he always has to finish the game, but I would have liked to see him, just use him throughout most of that fourth quarter with whatever lineup is out there, whatever other four guys you got going on.